Welcome to episode 27 of Secret City Geek Lab, your resource for everything geek. We'll talk movies, TV, comic books, video games, and anything geek. I'm your host, Alan Ng, and you'll hear from me and members of the improv comedy group, Secret City Comic Society. This week, we bring you Joey Shope. Coming up this week, a Pokemon preview from Joey Shope, a review of the Disney animated iPad app, and news from Marvel Studios. Coming up first, though, Joey Shope has a preview of Pokemon Mega Evolution, and here's that preview now. Okay, I'm here with Joey Shope, and he's got Pokemon news. What's going on?
There's some crazy stuff going on in Pokemon right now. Before the games even come out, they've released some new information.
This is before you're talking Pokemon X and Y.
X and Y.
Okay.
There's this new thing called Mega Evolution. Mm-hmm. What makes this very special is there's now a fourth level of evolution, which hasn't happened since the beginning of Pokemon. So back in the 90s when Red, Blue, and Yellow came out, you could really only level up your Pokemon, or evolve them twice, rather. You can go to Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. You only had... Charizard was the max you could go. But now they've added a new level of evolution.
Right.
What's really interesting is that it's based off an item. Pokemon can carry items, and that will affect them, sometimes affect how they perform in battle. Now this is a held item that at the beginning, as far as we can tell, at the beginning of the fight between the two Pokemon, your Pokemon will evolve to this new Mega level.
Okay. So by just having that item, they'll evolve.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that that's not, according to Pokemon, you can't get that item in-game. It's one of those things where you have to go to a store and have it downloaded. Okay. The first confirmed one will be Torchic, which is a Firebird-type Pokemon. Mm-hmm. You can download it at available places, and it'll be holding a Mega Evolution. Right now, it's not certain if that Torchic has to be fully evolved to a Blaziken, but it's definitely true that it's going to be the first one that has it. Okay, so what makes his evolution so special in the world? Well, it's so interesting because, back when I was a kid, on the school ground, we were talking about what if there's going to be another evolution, which we always thought was so interesting. And, what's really cool is that this has now confirmed the next Mew, the Mew generation. There's only Mew and Mewtwo, and then months ago, when Nintendo released that Mew 3-looking thing, that has been confirmed as the Mega Evolution of Mewtwo. So you buy it at Toys R Us? How much? You just download it. It's like the previous games before. Certain Pokemon you can get through special events. Right. You can get Darkrai or Pokemon like that in very special events. I'm sure Toys R Us and maybe Walmart, but GameStop, a lot of these places that have been known for doing it. As far as we can tell so far, that's where you'll be able to pick them up. And do you have an idea of the price? They've always been free before. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a cost to this, like a microtransaction, like $5. Okay. But we can't confirm that there is going to be one. And is this something the hardcore fans going to go after? Or, if they're offering downloads to everybody, you would think everyone's going to get it. My guessing is this might be one of those things where hardcore fans get it, and because as far as we can tell, in tournaments and stuff, we don't know if they're going to allow this, because, it's the next evolution for this Pokemon. Granted, it's only in that fight, but this may change the how Pokemon fight totally. Granted, there's only about 7 confirmed Pokemon so far that have it, but this might just be a stepping stone for the next couple of games to have more Mega Evolutions. As a Pokemon fan, I'm really interested in this because, like I said, I grew up playing these games, and I'm still playing them to this day. To see a completely new evolution is insane to me. Yeah, it's like Episode 7. Okay, you're the only... Okay, let me talk a little bit about the designs of these Mega Evolutions. I think they're really cool. One of them I particularly like I said, Blaziken is a really cool one. Lucario Mega evolves into... And are you allowed to choose which one you buy, or... I imagine that they're going to choose it for us. Okay, I feel so it's a blind pack or something? No, I think they'll tell you, weeks in advance. You show up to Toys R Us, presuming they have it, and say, I want to download this Pokemon. They said, okay, we know it's going to be Torchic, and you know you're going to get Torchic. And anyone who shows up will get a download? Yeah, they've always been really good about that. Something I've always commended businesses like that, as, if you show up with a DS, with a 3DS, you can download this. Oh, okay. So you got to bring your system in. Yeah, you can't just... you can. They don't just give you, a thing. Okay. All right, anything else? I have one negative thing about it. Although most of the designs look really cool, they have one really dumb one, and this is just for hardcore Pokemon fans. Kangaskhan's Mega Evolution is just its baby out of the pouch. Now, I realize that's gibberish to you,
Yeah.
But as a super fan of Pokemon, this is absolutely lazy and bad. And I know
no, I'm outraged.
I'm sure you are, Alan.
All right. Well, that's our Pokemon news from Joey Shope. This is KTSTFM. I'm Alan Ng, and you're listening to Secret City Geek Lab. Moving on, I'm going to play you a Disney interactive session that took place at D23 Expo. This segment highlights the Disney animated iPad app. It features the president of Toon Press, who created and developed the app. And if you're really into animation, this is a great app for you to download.
Okay, so at Disney Interactive, we're constantly looking for new ways to bring you closer to the Disney characters and stories that you love. Sometimes there are those rare moments when technology, art, and content all converge perfectly to create an experience that is entirely new and never possible before. This is one of those moments. Disney Animated is a new app that just launched this past Thursday and is the result of a special collaborative effort among Disney Interactive, Walt Disney Animation Studios, Disney Publishing, and the very successful premium app developer, TouchPress. Using the technology of the iPad, Disney Animated puts the magic of animation at your fingertips. The app takes you inside the creative process of animation and gets you closer than we ever dreamed possible to the actual art and tools used to create our films. With Animated, you can explore all 53 Disney animated films, from Snow White to the upcoming feature Frozen, through multiple modes and interactive experiences. You'll get access to an astonishing amount of content, including storyboards, clips, art, sound, images, and special interviews, all presented in a way to provide you a comprehensive and truly captivating new digital experience. Many of the artifacts you see in this app are currently in the Studio Archives department in Burbank under lock and key. And this type of interactive access is a very special thing. We also included many interactive workshops so people can try their hand at animating and learn by using the actual tools and technologies our animators currently use to produce all of your favorite movies. We hope that by granting access like this, we can inspire a whole new generation of animators to make the films that will entertain us in the future. So with that, I want to bring up Teo Gray, the founder of TouchPress and the co-author of this amazing product.
So when Disney came to us and wanted to do some kind of an app, we did what we always do at TouchPress, which is we tried to rethink from the ground up how ought one to tell this story in the modern world of interactive media and tablets. What should you do if that's the medium that you're communicating in? And it turns out that animation is actually a topic that works really well. It's almost crying out for this sort of way of telling stories. Because animation is about pictures that move. That's what it's about. This is the homepage of Disney Animated, and you can see there's two main sections to the app. Across the top, you have the story of how animated movies are made. And along the bottom, you have a set of interactive experiences that let you get sort of hands-on in that world. Anybody at Disney, where does a Disney movie come from? They'll always tell you it starts with a story. That's what we figured our app better start with a story too. So, chapter about stories. And then we go through the stages of production: visual development, character, layout and backgrounds. Eventually you get to animation. I was surprised how long it takes before you actually get to doing animation. Visual effects all the way through the final process of putting together a movie and releasing it. Let's go look at the chapter on characters. So this is a page that you might see in any print book about Disney animation. And there's a problem, which is that these pictures are not moving. These should be moving. They're all scenes, clips out of animated films. So what you can do here is you can touch it. This is what you should be seeing when you're reading about animation. You should be seeing the actual animation. So on this page, every single thing on here is a little clip. I won't let them all play because there's some of them are long, some are short. We go on the next page. Now, of course, not everything to do with animation is a clip. Some things are viz dev art, things like that. This is an example of something that I find particularly fascinating. This is an animation maquette. It's used as reference by the animators to draw from different angles. These things are locked up in the Animation Research Library, and you can't get to these things. Absolutely nobody can touch these things other than the curators with white gloves. You just can't see it. Unless you have this app, in which case you can take your finger and swipe this thing and turn it as if you were holding it in your hand. It was quite an ordeal to get them to agree to let us photograph these things this way. So that's kind of the idea, is that there's different sorts of things in this book, and we let you interact with each one of them in a way that makes the most sense for that kind of material. It just keeps going. There's stuff from Frozen that you haven't seen anywhere, there's stuff that you don't see anywhere else. This is the beautiful background paintings from some of the early movies. Any one of these could be in an art museum. What's the best way to, how should you interact with this thing? Like if you had this painting, this is an Ivan Earl background from Sleeping Beauty. If this was in your living room, what would you do with it? You might look at it. You might walk up to it. You might lean in a little bit. You might get out a magnifying glass. And so what you can do here in the app is you can get right up to it. You can see the individual brush strokes. Very, very high resolution scan. Higher quality, high resolution has ever been available anywhere. And I'll show you this clip. So this is a scene from Lion King. When you watch this as you're watching the movie, you see it as finished work. You see this piece of video that streams out. But that's not really how animators think about this stuff. They think about it in terms of a series of images that need to work together and that came from someplace, that were created in some way. So we let you peel back those layers. I can slide my finger down here, and I'm sliding here between the finished cells, the story panels, the cleanup animation. I can go back and forth. I can see what the relationship is between the cleanup frames and the final cells. This is something you've never been able to do. Not even anybody at Disney has been able to examine and study their work this way. And it makes you feel, it makes you feel closer to the people who made this in a way that's difficult to describe. You really kind of have to try it for yourself. So this is sort of putting you behind the scenes, letting you get your hands on a tool that's used in the production of the movie. And probably the ultimate example of that we have in here is this animation workshop. So this is the genuine article. This is the actual Vanellope, by which I mean it is a CG model derived directly from the model used in the movie. It's rigged and it's controllable. I can zoom in. I can touch one of the control points if I could see it. I can move the joints around. This is designed to work not like a video game, but like the animation software that's used in producing these movies. So it's very flexible, it's completely open-ended, you can do anything you want. And it's keyframe animation. So along the bottom you'll see a set of key poses that have been laid out in this example. If I slide my finger sideways here, controls, you'll see it plays out that piece of animation. I can go back and forth between each of the key frames. And if I click play, it will now play out this animation. Because this is a real model, not a canned video, I can do that from any angle. I can watch what's happening from behind. And perhaps most remarkably, I can actually share this video. I can export it as a movie file, post it to Facebook, Twitter, email, YouTube. So as you can see, this is a big and comprehensive app. There's a lot of material in here. And I want to just go a little sort of trip down the rabbit hole of what do I mean by comprehensive. One of the sections here is called the timeline. This is This is the complete filmography of the Walt Disney Animation Studios division from Snow White through Frozen. And let's start zooming in and see how far we can go. So we can start zooming. You'll see first things, a few more movies show up that didn't fit earlier. Now we're down to seeing all the separate movies. Let's pick one, touch this. We get a little film card of this movie, and we have a card for each movie. It's got the poster, the original movie poster, and the plot synopsis. And it's got these guys walking along. Go down a little bit. So here are the pictures of the major characters in this movie. But that would really not be good enough. These are not pictures. Each one of these is an animated clip.
When the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on the world.
Every major character in every movie ever made by Walt Disney Animation Studios, we have a walking, talking, singing, dancing clip where the character, kind of shows off who they are and what they're all about. And then we have this little strip here at the bottom, these little sort of bar of colors along the very bottom. This is what we call the color map, and it shows the sequence of predominant colors as they occur throughout the movie from start to finish. And it kind of lets you see what's going on, sort of what mood is going on in a given part of the movie by the colors. If they're bright, happy colors, probably a bright, happy scene. If it's dark, and then maybe that's a scary scene or something. Like for example, at the end of Lion King, there's a big fire, and then in the battle, and then it's dark and it's night, and then suddenly it's happy again. You can see that if you look towards the end, right before the black of the credits. You see red and then dark and bright. And if this isn't clear enough, you can touch the color map, and you can see a thumbnail, which I can swipe through here. So here I'm seeing the fire, and then the dark, and then happy, 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 everybody's good, and we're in the credits. So I'm sweeping through the entire movie here. This is the whole thing. Now it's thumbnails, and there's no sound, but it's basically the whole movie. This is a comprehensive app. That's what it's about. Thank you very much.
This is KTSTFM. I'm Alan Ing, and you're listening to The Geek Lab. We just heard a lot about Disney Animated. Let's review it. Since I was a child, I would read basically two types of books. It was either about the Muppets or it was about animation. And over the years, my fascination with animation grew and grew. Over the years, though, I was able to get my hands on the ultimate resource book in animation. And it's called The Illusion of Life, Disney Animation by Ollie Johnston, who was one of the 9 old men, one of the original Walt Disney animators. It was a very large book, and it gave you everything you need to know about basically the ideas and theories, not only about animation, but about Disney animation. The book is very expensive, and also today things have changed. Disney no longer does hand-drawn animation. And although as much as this book can seem outdated, it really isn't. And just because of its size and its price, it's very inaccessible to kids today. And so that's where the Disney Animated app comes in. As you heard during the presentation, this app is available for the Apple iPad, and it gives you an immersive experience into the world of Disney animation. You're able to go through the entire process of from beginning to end of how a Disney animated feature is created. And there are a lot of hands-on workshops that you can do. But the reason I mentioned before about the Illusions of Life book is because there are about 12 principles that are applied to animated films today, and how Walt Disney created those 12 principles, instilled them even in as early as Snow White, and how those principles are still used today. And you're able to interact with those principles as well. The app does let you go through all 12, and it does let you interact with one of the first ones, which is the squash and stretch. The idea being that in the app, there is a work section where you can actually see the squash and stretch in action, where it's a bouncing ball. When in real life, let's say you take a bowling ball and you drop it, that bowling ball hits the ground with a thud, but the bowling ball in itself maintains its shape because of its density. That ball just stays in a perfectly round state, spherical state. But in Disney animation, items and objects are much more fluid than that. And so if you were to see a ball bounce, Let's take a cartoon bowling ball and just drop it. As the ball hits the ground, it squashes a little bit, gives that comedic effect, and then it coils back upwards and stretches up if it were to bounce, and bounce and stretch into the direction that it would go. So even though it may have been a cartoon bowling ball, in reality, it would never change shape, but in Disney animation, it would. And you see that in action with Disney animated. Also, the concept of keyframes. In computers, when you animate, what happens is you have keyframes. In one frame, maybe a person is sitting down. And in the second frame, the person is standing up. And what the computer does is it animates every transitional frame from sitting down to standing up, and the computer does that for you. And when you use the Vanellope character model that is provided for you in the Disney animated app, you're able to put her in one position, put her then in a second position, and then the app will then animate or create the key frames or the frames in between those two key frames. It's an amazing app. It's definitely user-friendly for children, moving around from page to page, finding Easter eggs, very easy, a lot of fun to use. I give this an 8 out of 10. Welcome back to the Geek Lab. I'm Alan, and this is KTST-FM. On our last segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about some geek news, especially when it comes to some Marvel Studios movies and some other things. The big one that just came out the other day, Marvel announced that Bradley Cooper will be the voice of Rocket Raccoon in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays the feisty alien who happens to resemble a raccoon. This news is official. Not yet official is Vin Diesel, who apparently is going to be playing the voice of Groot, but that has not been confirmed by anyone just yet. We do know that Vin Diesel has been at the Marvel Studios offices, has been in talk. He is going to appear in some kind of a Marvel film. We're just not sure if it is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy as Groot. If you're familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy, Groot is basically a tree, and all he does is communicate by saying the words, "I am Groot," in different ways. Bradley Cooper, though, confirmed he joins the team that is currently Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, and Dave Bautista as Drax. No word if Cooper will be flying to England, where the movie is currently being shot, or if he's just going to voice the character in post-production. Also in casting news, Disney is producing the movie Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. They've just rounded out the cast with Megan Mullally from Will and Grace and Jennifer Coolidge from the Christopher Guest movies, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, and all the rest. They will join Steve Carell and Jennifer Garner, who plays the parents of 11-year-old Alexander. The story follows Alexander through his day when he thinks that all the bad things are only happening to him. But as it turns out, his whole family is going through the same type of day. Disney's Alexander is directed by Miguel Archuleta and is written by Rob Lieber, based on the 1972 children's book written by Judith Vorse of the same name. Then the final piece of casting news is Age of Ultron, Avengers 2 has its villain, and that villain is being played by James Spader, who starred in Boston Legal and is going to appear this fall on NBC's The Blacklist. James Spader will be playing the villain Ultron, or at least what we know of. He'll obviously be playing the voice of Ultron, but there's no details as to whether he will actually be physically on set portraying the robot menace who ultimately becomes the villain in the Avengers. And if you're familiar with the Marvel Comics, Ultron is a huge villain, one that has been that the Avengers have always had a hard time not only killing but stopping. And if you read the spring's big Marvel event, Age of Ultron, you know that Ultron was central to that. Avengers 2 is scheduled to come out on May 1st, 2015. Well, that is Secret City Geek Lab for this week. This has been episode 27, and it's brought to you by Secret City Comic Society, Fullerton's best all-ages improv comedy. So come back next week for more news and updates in the world of geekdom and nerdy. A big thank you to Joey Shope for his Pokemon preview, and visit us online for daily geek news and reviews at secretcitycomedy.com/thegeeklab. Next time, have a geek week.